The second question was what are the things to do to build good profile? That this is from Ajay. If you're applying for CMU or any other thing, what is the good things to build a good profile? See, honestly, I do not sit in the admission committee of any university. So whatever I'm saying is my best guess. Okay, so take it with a pinch of salt. If one of the good things is maintain your grade. I know it's a very contradictory advice or controversial advice, but if you are a 6-pointer, 5-pointer, you really need to explain why it is so low, right? So you need to compensate it with really good projects, really good research profile, right? Otherwise, everybody was like, he's a 6-pointer, he does not have a good profile. What was he doing in last 4 years, right? So maintain a good grade. That will ease out a lot of things in your life. I'm a 7-pointer. I could not get into Robotics Institute. I am a Mechie. So I'm not in the CMU RA or MRST. I'm from Mechie. And probably it was my 7-pointer that got me rejected from it, right? So maintain a good pointer. Do not give anybody to ask any question on that, right? Once you have a good pointer, even if you don't have, but preferably have it, work hard on your projects, deep projects. If you're going for masters, people do not look for tiny projects, Arduino projects. People are looking for how much work you did in a particular research lab. For example, there are some good research labs working on localization, machine learning, how much deep work you did. So I would, or even a startup, right? Even in a startup, you're building a whole robot from scratch. That's a big thing. Because the thing about the startup is they're building for the real world, right? So if you're building a robot which is actually getting deployed in, let's say, Flipkart, that's a big thing. Not a lot of people can do it. Right? So do a serious internship of 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. Dedicatedly work on a single project, give your best into it. That will improve your chances, right? If that project is on a research internship, gets your paper out, that's brilliant. Not a lot of people expect a paper from an undergrad student, but they do expect a good work experience. Like not like an industrial work experience, but work experience during internship, research projects, that kind of experience. Right. So preferably do a 6 months internship if you can. If you cannot, then try to get best out of your summer internship. Right? But whatever you got, go super deep into it. So in my internship at CMU, I was working 10 to 12 hours a day. I was spending nights in the lab, right? Because like that was the only thing. Like I was in US for the first time. People who came with me were roaming around in Pittsburgh, roaming around New York and other places. I was dedicatedly working on it because I knew I did not have a huge grade. I did not have really good grades. This is the only thing which I can differentiate myself into, and I put my 100% into it. Right? So do it as this is the only thing in your life at that moment. So yeah. So in short, to make a better profile, maintain good grades, work in good research labs, work in startups, and work for a good amount of time, 6 to 8 months, and do only that. Try to get some good demonstrable output out of it. Paper is great, but completing a project, deploying it in a real world, that is also great. Right? And if possible, if you can get a patent out of it, that huge thing, right? So I got a patent out of it, patent out of my clean robotics internship, in which I worked for 5 months, right? So that's like still the highlight of my career. Still my one big patent is from clean robotics. So it will go a long way. Like even after you graduate from CMU later also, that paper, that patent, that project will still be one of the key highlights of your career. Kanishk is asking me why did I come to India? That's sort of a personal question. In a brief, if I have to answer that, I came back to India on vacation. I was having troubles in getting the visa back. I did not put much effort into it. My family was in India, so my decision got biased. And further, I was getting a good opportunity to do a startup in India. And this thing, I had this confidence that if I want to go back to US or go to Europe, Singapore, Australia, any other good country or continent where robotics is good, I had this confidence that I can get job in any of these geographies. Right? That is, and you know what? I used to think that's common, right? Everybody is confident, but that's when I realized that a lot of people struggle, right? A lot of people have faced rejection and they're demoralized in leaving their current job and trying out something extraordinary. Right? So you should aim for that confidence. You know, like you should be you should be working so hard in whatever you are doing, learn so much that you know that you will get a job in any circumstance because you know you are the best engineer, right? And I do not know how I got this confidence, probably because I work for Clean Robotics or Near Earth Autonomy or studied in Carnegie Mellon. Could be anything, like could be a combination of this. But I had this confidence that tomorrow, if I choose to stop Movito, touch wood, I hope this never happens. But if I have to stop Movito and look for a job in Amsterdam or in Canada or in US, I'm very confident I will get one. Right. So this is the yeah. So this confidence actually helped me a lot. So that kind of pushed me to take the risk that hey, just let's quit Near Earth Autonomy, which is a good paying job, and let's do a startup. What's the worst could happen? So if, yeah, so that's the reason I kind of did it. So yeah. So basically, just to summarize, I was on a vacation. Family was in India. Had a good opportunity to do a startup, and I had no fear of if this does not work out, what will happen. I did not even think that far. I was just confident that whatever happens, I will deal with it. Okay, fifth question. Most of the robotic startups in India are working on autonomous non-mobile robots. Any idea when the quadruped robot companies will start taking place, or there is no market in that field in India? So I do not know, man. Like, man or woman, whoever are you? I do not know, buddy. Um, I'm not a market analyst. I have no idea when quadruped robots will take a market in India. See, when you're doing a business, no, nobody cares about the technology, right? Everybody cares, does your technology solve the problem? So, like you, I'm also engineer. I was also like, chalo quadruped robot banate hain, because my bachelor thesis was a quadruped robot, right? So I was super excited about leg robots. I was super excited about a lot of different things, right? But here's the problem: you will make the robot, but who will buy it, right? So you gotta in the industry it does not work like you make something and then you try to sell it. In the industry it works like you first try to sell it, then you make it, right? You first try to figure out what's the problem, right? Then you figure out the solution, then you make the solution in the best possible way, right? So if you look at Boston Dynamics, right? For a long time, Boston Dynamics were not selling the robots. They were selling the robots only to the DARPA, which is the DRDO of United States, right? So they were struggling to find the problem on which industrial problem on which they can solve. They can put their uh, quadruped robots on. Now look at the company which is called Agility Robotics, right? Agility Robotics is making robots for delivery. It's making a bipedal robots, right? They found a problem and now they're doing good. They did much better than Boston Dynamics in a short amount of time. So that's the thing. So if you could find a problem which only leg robots can solve, then it can happen, and that problem should be big enough. It should not be like that going on the Mars. If you tell me that you are making quadruped robot, a company to make quadruped robots for going to Mars, then that's not going to scale up, right? Because there are not a lot of companies going to the Mars. So you should find a problem which is very big, and then see if quadruped robots could solve it or not, right? Or or quadruped robots have an advantage in solving that robot or not, so solving that problem or not. So you should look in the other way around. First find the problem, then see is it a good problem for the quadruped robots or not. So that's the thing. Otherwise, I think the best idea, if you really want to work on quadruped robots, join a lab which is working on quadruped robots. That's the best way. In the industry, there are very few people who are working on it. After masters in CMU-RI, which program is better? I do not know. MSR, MRSD, which is better? It depends on your aims, right? So when you're going for masters, So a lot of people have been asking me questions, which college is better for masters, where you should go, etc., etc. See, you all are Indians, I'm guessing, right? And you have been through this common experience that in high school you work hard, whatever you do, you're aiming for the top colleges, right? And your college is decided by your rank. Right? That is undergrad. Right? In masters, in PhD, you do not choose college right like this. You choose college based on what they're good at. For example, Carnegie Mellon is good in computer science, in robotics, in drama, right? In all these things. So, but Carnegie Mellon is not that great in mechanical engineering, for example, right? In mechanical engineering, Stanford is better, MIT is better, right? So first figure out, and same goes for the programs. Programs are engineered for certain set of people. MSR is engineered for generally research kind of people, and MRSD is generally is engineered for uh, industrial industry oriented people, right? So if you know you're not doing PhD, you're not going to do it deep into the research, then join MRSD. And if you want to go deep into the research, potentially into PhD, join MSR. Having said that, I know people who have done MRSD and are doing PhD right now. Right? So it's just look at what this course offers, which course fits best for you, and then join it. I joined mechanical because I knew I can take courses in robotics, because both are under the same university. I'll get access to the same companies as people from Robotics Institute get. Right, I can access the same labs which people from Robotics Institute access to. That's why I joined Mechanical Engineering Department of same. Right? So that's the strategy, and that's the kind of strategy you need to build. Like, what do you want, and based on that, what you need to apply for. There's a course for everyone. Now, sir, I'm interested in Swarm Robot, but I actually do not know where to start, where all I can apply. I know programming for autonomous robot. That's great now with if you are into Swarm Robots. Okay, again, I'm not an expert in Swarm Robots. I do not know which lab works on Swarm Robots. What you're gonna do is Google about the papers in Swarm Robotics, figure out who is doing active research in Swarm Robotics. So there's a Google Scholar, right? Or you can just check ICRA, IROS, and all these robotics conferences and see which lab is publishing papers on swarm robotics, right? And based on that, apply to those labs. If you want to go for masters, apply to those colleges. If you want to go for internship, apply to those labs. Some lab will be ready to take you in. Some lab will say, hey, we can't give you a stipend. Still join them. At least work remotely for them, right? Everybody likes free interns. And what you get in return is learning. What you get in return is contacts. You work 3 months for free. After 3 months, if the work is good, after 3 months, the professor himself or herself will pay you to come there, right? So, but the way to search these people is go through conferences, figure out, who's writing most of the papers or whose work do you like, and just mail them, cold email. Right? But yeah, and if you read their paper, then that's great because they will really like people who have read their work.
We have a couple of more questions in the chat box. So Naveen wants to know what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
So yeah, that's a good question actually. I did not know I have to go into entrepreneurship for a long time. High school I wanted to go into robotics. College I wanted to go into robotics. In fact, when applying to CMU, I applied for the PhD program also. I was like, maybe I want to do research. Maybe I want to be like next person to win that Alan Turing Award and all those things. Like I was like one of those people who are like, let's go deep into it. Let's not take a shot for 1 week and work continuously on this problem. Read 10,000 papers, etc. Right? But then I did this internship at HAPS. Right? I dropped second semester work for HAPS Shenzhen, China. I realized this is far more interesting to get a product out in very short time. Right? Research is good. Research is great. But a lot of research is oriented towards things which will go out in the market in next 2-3 years. Right? I want to get a product out in the market in next 6 months. Right? I want to see people using it as soon as possible. And that's when I realized that I need to work for a startup rather doing research in a lab. I will be inventing new things, I will be innovating, but I don't want to spend time on something which will not give a product in the next 6 months. So that's when I realized that I have to work in a startup, preferably a small startup. Why did I started my own startup? It's because when I came back to India, there was no other good startup to work for. I worked for Hitech, which was a big company, right? Which is still is a big company. But apart from Hitech, Grey Orange, there were not many companies in India. There was Start and Sense in Bangalore, but yeah, other companies also were like, I mean, they were fine. It was way back in 2019. Now they are much better startups. Now there is Peer Robotics, Rightbots, Unbox, right? And there's one self-driving truck startup also in Bangalore. I forgot the name, right? So there are a bunch of startups now. Back then there was none. So I was like, since I cannot join a startup because there's no good startups in India, let's try to make my own. Let's try to figure out a problem. If I cannot even figure out a problem, then that means I can't stay back in India. I have to look for a job outside India. But I realized there is a problem, and then I started the startup. But yes, my first preference was not to start a startup. First preference was to join a startup and build the product. Join a small startup and build the product, right? Because I'm finally an engineer at the core. Uh, I hope that answers. Flux Auto, yes, Flux Auto is that startup which is working self-driving truck. There's another company called BotSense. They're also doing pretty good. Uh,
Yeah, we have another question from Naveen itself, and he wants to know, how did you recognize the need for market and make products and services related to it? It kind of is in the same line as my question as well. What was the problem you were trying to solve when you started Movie2?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question actually. That's a very fundamental question. Whenever you are doing a startup, whenever you are building something for the industry, you should first know the problem. And how do you discover problem? You talk to people, right? I talk to, so I have a friend in a company called Rucha Yantra. It's a Aurangabad-based startup, again making robots for industries. The guy's name is Rohit Dashrathi, good friend of mine from CMU. I talked to him. I talked to at least 9 other startups, and then I kept on talking to more and more. But after talking to 10 startups itself, I realized that I I had a notion, right? So I was interning at Hitech, right? I talked to people at Hitech. I asked them where are they getting their software from, because it does not look like a good quality. It looks like a college kid has made over over a summer internship, right? So I realized that they are using something from open source, and I will not call the name, but what is there in the open source, right? So they were using it. The robots were not working that great, and so I asked them. I asked around, like, is this the problem with every other company? People were saying, yeah, it's probably every other company is doing the same. I called up other companies. I literally called up the founder of each and every startup at that time in India, and most of them were taking the software from online and modifying it. Right, Rohit and this guy, Invento guy, right, Balaji. So they told me that, hey, if you make it for us, we are also struggling with the same problem, right? And especially Invento, Invento had a huge demand for their robots. They had a very small team, right? They were not able to spend enough time on this. So at that moment, they were like, hey, if you build it for us, we'll buy it. Right? So that's what Balaji told me. And that was like a green signal, right? Two people are ready to pay you for the product you're building before even I build it, right? So that's when I started. And Balaji eventually was able to make their own, and I was not able to make the complete navigation on time for Balaji. So Balaji eventually is right now, I think, using their own stack. But Rucha, for example, we have multiple projects with them, with Rohit, and then we realize there are more startups like this who want a navigation software. But yes, I literally talked to them, had a slight idea that this might be the problem, and to confirm it, to get more data out of that, I talked to the people. I literally called them up, I mailed them. So yeah, that's what happened. And in between, we had more ideas, and we again checked it with them. And the other ideas which we had did not have a huge market. 3 people were saying yes, 6 people were saying no, and so on. And so yeah. Now we are doing something else, by the way. Now we are making a full-scale robot for a warehouse. And again, we started on this warehouse automation robots after talking to at least 20 people, more than 20 in fact. Right? So they all said they had a similar problem, and we're like, sure, let's make the robot for you. So, yeah.
That's amazing. The way you guys found out the marketplace for your robots. So there is another question from Siddharth. He wants to know what are the use cases of the robots that you provide the navigation stacks for?
Yeah. So again, Siddharth, first thing, we still provide the navigation stack, but down the line we are going to discontinue it, or we are just serving the current customers, and we will keep on serving the current customers. But down the line we will not go for any new customers, right? And the reason, I mean, there's a business reason for it. We are not able to scale it up. We're not able to sell it to 100 more customers. That's the problem. But use case here is very varied. Some are using it for hospitals. Some are using for shopping malls. Some are using for hotels. Some are using for industry. Some are using for construction. And a lot of them are using for warehouses. So that's the use case basically. Yeah. So we do not stick to the use case because there are already very few startups in this area. If you stick to, let's say, hey, we will build navigation only for warehouses, then you're not going to get a lot of customers for the software, right? So that's why we have to be very horizontal. Horizontal is a term for this. We have to be very horizontal in a customer base because there are not a lot of people who could be our potential customer. But now we are not doing it. Now we are doing for warehouse startup, warehouse companies. We are making a robot right now with a robotic arm, which can pick and place things in a warehouse. So it can go to a carton, pick up something, and then go to another crate. So carton is where all the stuff is, or it can go to a shelf in the inventory, pick up a thing, right? And then go to dropping area where the customer specific totes or crates are and drop it into customer crate. Right? So basically that's what we are doing. A robotic arm with a mobile base goes, picks up from one place, drops it another place. That's what we do. So if any of you is interested in manipulation or integration, so we are still not making every component ourselves. We're taking a robotic arm, we're taking a mobile base. There are tens of hundreds of companies making that, right? And then we are integrating them together, putting our software into them, and then deploying them. Right? So if any of you is interested in the integration part or in the manipulation part, in the computer vision, because for picking you need computer vision, machine learning, just send me an email.
That's amazing.
We are looking for full-time people. Interns are also welcome, especially interns who are staying for more than 6 months. So interns who stay for 2 months, they're not able to do anything significant. They end up adding 1 or 2 features here and there, but they after 2 months they do not know the entire stack. Right? Think about this. After 6 months of internship, you will know the whole manipulation stack or the navigation stack by heart. How powerful that would be. You would have contributed very little to it because it's a big company. Each individual person contributes little, right? But this whole power of knowing everything inside the stack and talking to your next recruiter, right? That I worked at Movito, I knew the entire stack, this how everything works. That's powerful thing, right? And you can only do that if you stay for 6 months, 8 months, or a year, right? Even if it is an internship, right? And only if you stay for 6 months, we will be able to give you a critical work. So I will appreciate if you are going for internship, go for longer, apply to Movito, or if you're going for full time, that's like brilliant.
Amazing. So now we have a question that's more of a different side. How does Canada fare for masters? Deep Raj has this question for you.
Deep Raj has a question that how Canada is, sorry?
How does Canada fare for masters?
Good question, Deep Raj. So Canada, I've never been to Canada, but I've heard a lot about good Canadian university, like University of Toronto, University of Alberta, University of Waterloo. really, really good, especially University of Waterloo when it comes to startup. I know a lot of startups which came out of University of Waterloo. So, and University of Toronto, I mean, if you are from deep learning background or machine vision, I'm very sure you would have heard about University of Toronto. Like Jan LeCun was there, and this guy, what's his name? Goodfellow, Ian Goodfellow. He's also from, I think, University of Toronto, like some Canadian university, probably University of Toronto. So Ian Goodfellow is the guy who made generative adversarial networks, GANs. Right? He's a god in that. Right? So a lot of machine learning people are in there. So if you want to go for research, especially in machine learning, computer vision, etc., right? Go for Canada. Even for robotics, Canada is decently good. What you need to check for is jobs. Right? Most of you are going to masters or getting jobs, right? One thing good about one reason people prefer United States is because if you want to get a job in United States, it's much easier if you do a master's from United States. If you do master's from Canada and try to take up a job in US, I'm not sure that's easy, right? Because of all the visa issues, right? If you are master's from some US university, then you can stay on your student visa for the next 3 years after graduation while doing that job. Right? You do not need a work permit. So that's the thing. So you can stay back on a student visa for next 3 years.
All right. So coming to kind of projects, so Harsha has a question that what kind of projects can add weightage to the resume while applying for jobs?
Look for projects, even before the projects, first look for good mentor, right? And from that mentor, take up a project. So for example, take a mentor, a PhD student at the least, best a postdoc, so PhD, postdoc, professor, right? So best if you could take it from a professor or a postdoc. Work for them for free if they're not into taking interviews. Just tell them that I want to work, I want to learn. Do the projects under them, and if they're not giving projects, move on, get to next professor, right? So, or again, join a startup, because in startup everybody tries to get most work out of you. So it will never happen that you work for a startup and people are not giving you work. They will निचोड़ देंगे तुम्हें काम से. So you will have the highest productivity for the next 3 or 6 months in a startup, right? That I can guarantee, any startup, in fact, right? Anyway, so the reason good mentors are needed is so that they can always guide you, right? Whether it's a startup or a professor or a postdoc, they will tell you what you should look for, what you should not, put your head into, because that could be a landmine, or could be a rabbit hole, right? So get a good, try to figure out a lab, try to figure out a startup, or try to figure out a lab or a startup, and apply there and work with whatever project they give you, right? And whenever you're taking up a project, if you're looking for masters, especially, try to take up projects where a good amount of reading is required, right? If you are taking up a project which is just to code something very easy, right? This happens a lot in the lab, right? You take a project and the professor just give you a very simplistic thing, which is helping out the PhD, and it does not need a lot of reading. You are just a coder at the end of the day. Then that project is not good. Try to take up a project which requires reading the papers in lab, which requires understanding of a new algorithm, right? So that's this. In short, what I'm trying to tell you is go for an internship where you are learning a lot. You can learn a lot if you're doing something new for yourself, right? And that new could be learning a new algorithm, learning a new approach, learning altogether new maths, right? So try to take up those projects. And initially you might not know, but after 1 week of work or 2 weeks of work, if you're not feeling that you are learning anything, go to your mentor and tell that person that you're not learning anything, you want something more challenging. And you can always do that, in fact, right? Before it is too late. And maybe you would spend 1 month just coding something, and that is not even something new.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach. Yeah. So Tejas has a question. Should I take a gap of 1 to 2 years before masters?
Your choice, bro. Give me 1 second. See, I will tell you my experience. I'm one of those people who was pushed or uh, who wanted to do it very quickly. Who wanted to get done with education ASAP and get into the industry ASAP. Right, I'm that person. So uh, I went to undergrad college, and I was like, whatever college I get, I will get into it. I will not drop out 1 year to get into a better college. Right, I will just take it. Right. Then immediately after that, I went for Carnegie Mellon. Right, and then so here's the thing. I joined Carnegie Mellon in August end. 30th of August or something like that. The job fair was on October 1 month time. Now, when job fair is basically placement season, right? People come, you show your resume. Now I'm 1 month into Carnegie Mellon, right? Done no unique project in Carnegie Mellon. 1 month. What will you do, right? I was competing with the undergrads of Carnegie Mellon who did their internship in Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, etc., etc. Right? I was competing for internship with them. Right? They were doing, I think third year or fourth year internship or something like that. So I was a guy from Indian college from mechanical department, and there were people from Carnegie Mellon internship in a very good industry. I was competing against them. I had nothing to show. Right? I was the guy, as I mentioned, I did not even know good coding. Right? So that's the situation you might end up landing into if you go for masters right after college. So my learning from that was spend at least 1 year in the industry or in the research lab and then go for masters. What are the benefits? First benefit, you will know what's happening in the world of research, in the world of robotics. So that when you go for masters, you will know what courses you have to take. Because in the masters, you have the option to take courses and reject courses, right? You don't need to take all the courses. It's not a strict curriculum, unlike undergrad. So after 1 year of work, when you go to the masters, you will know which courses to take, which field you want to focus on. You can't focus on everything. You have to focus on something particular so that you go really deep into it and you become the expert in it, right? So you will know that, right? Second, when you're applying for internship in masters, there will be people, you will have something to show, right? You will have 1 year of work that, hey, I worked in that lab, I worked in that startup, I built that robot from scratch. So there's a guy, Ankur, in my startup who is going for masters at Carnegie Mellon. He built our complete robot from scratch during pandemic. Think about this. When the internship comes, he will boast about that. Dude, I made the whole AMR, which can take up 100 kg of weight all by myself in 1.5 months. How powerful is that statement, right? So, and he did during this internship during the pandemic. Right? So, I mean, you will be in a better position for internship if you have 1 year of industry experience before joining for masters, and you will know what to do in your masters. So I will say go for it. Go for 1 year drop. If you want to go for 2 year drop, that's also good, right? There's no harm in it.
All right, so Abhinav has a question that he's from mechanical engineering and he's a pass out and he's really good at coding. What should be his next step into entering into robotics?
What's his name?
Abhinav.
Abhinav, a quick question from you. What do you want to do in your 5 year of time span? Do you want to, be in core robotics industry, or be in the self-driving car industry, or do you want to do a startup kind of thing? Abhinav, you can switch on your mic.
Hello.
Yeah, Abhinav.
Hello. Yeah. Right now, my plan would be to go to core robotics.
Core robotics, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, in India, you cannot be the robotics expert by remaining in India, right? There are a lot of startups in India, but if you want to be the best in robotics, you have to work with best in robotics, right? And right now, US is one of the best places for robotics, right? Go there, get trained, and then if you want to, wherever you want to go, right? And how do you go there? apply for masters, apply for internships, and you can go there. So you know coding, and you are from mechanical, you know coding, and you want to go into core robotics. First, get a job, get an internship, start working on that, and side by side, start applying for masters in United States or internships in United States. As I say, go for masters in United States. You will not learn much in internships. Sorry, my bad. I take back my words. Go for masters in United States or research internship there, right? And actually, for research internship, you can go anywhere in the world, right? You have TU Delft. You have there's a very interesting university in Czech Republic. I forgot its name. I think it's called CIT. And there's Imperial College of London. There is Hokkaido University. There are a bunch of universities, right? So go where they are doing really, really good robotics work. Majority of them in United States. Some are there outside US. Go there, do your internship, and apply for masters in US. Right? When you apply for masters, you graduate. There's a good chance that you will land up in a really good job in robotics, and then you will learn from the father of robotics. Like all these big researchers in robotics are right now in industry. Right? All these Matt Mason, Raj Reddy, and all these big, Drew Bagnell and Jan LeCun, right? They all work in the industry now. Jan LeCun work for Facebook, for example, right? So all the AI people are working for Google, Facebook, Microsoft. So just go work for them, learn as much as you can, and then decide your next 5-year plan maybe. But yeah, if you want to learn robotics, best place is going to US or anywhere other good universities for research internship. For masters, try to focus on US, I would say.
Thank you.
So I wanted to know how you guys secured funding for your startup.
I'll get to that. For masters, I'm pushing for US, but even if you don't get US, that's fine. If there are other universities outside US, the only issue with them is the jobs. Right? In US, the jobs are better, so preferably US. Go for masters for US. But other universities like Imperial College of London, Tokyo University, other universities, and Tokyo University, KAIST in Korea, and Oribro in Europe, TUDEF, they're also good for robotics. They're actually quite good. Right? But I cannot guarantee jobs from them because jobs depends on geography, job depends on country. Right? Sorry, Meghna, back to you.
Yeah, so my question for you is, how did you guys secure the funding for your startup?
Yeah, that's the sad part. You touched a very nerve, right? Unfortunately, we are not able to. Okay, let me tell you from the beginning, right? We did the navigation stack because it did not require any funding, right? Software startup, they don't require any funding. Right? We started building the software, and after I quit Near Autonomy, I applied for a few accelerators like Exilor, which is based in Bangalore. They funded me around 10 lakhs, right? Which was good enough because, if you know about Grexter, it's a co-living space. It's like a hostel, co-ed hostel, right? So I was living there while I was in at the beginning of Movito in Bangalore, right? In BTM, right? So I was living out of a hostel. I was working, got 10 lakhs from Exilor. Still, it's still it is not enough. Like if I cannot like give myself 1 lakh salary, right? So I'm still not paying myself. I'm still unpaid. That's the truth of entrepreneurship. Everyone, after 2 years of startup, I'm still not paying myself. Or the other way of saying is, I get the payment, but I reinvest in the startup. That's another way of putting it, right? So yeah, got the money. I was still doing the startup, was getting revenue. Most of the revenue, I was keeping it for future and paying my interns, right? Now we have moved to hardware, right? So software does not need any money. Software needs money only for paying to interns, employees, everyone. We are getting it enough from our revenue, from our customers, right? We are getting good enough money for paying them, right? But now since we have to do our hardware startup, we are right now funding the hardware development from our own, from the savings which we have done from the revenue. and the funds which we receive from Exilor. Exilor is our accelerator. But here's the thing, Exilor gave us 10 lakh. Whatever money which we are getting from revenue, it's not that high, right? And that is the reason we are pivoting, right? Because navigation stack was not giving us enough revenue, right? So now we are pivoting to full stack startup. But in the full stack robot, we have a robotic arm and a robotic base. Robotic arm cost at least 20 lakh. Robotic base cost at least 10 lakh. 30 lakh for the first prototype. Yeah, so this is another negative part of doing a robotic startup. It's not a cell phone that you can make in 2 lakhs, right? It's not a remote car. It's something as expensive as a Mercedes, right? You can buy a Tata Safari for 30 lakhs. So this is how my co-founder also puts it. You can buy a Husky of ClearPath, Husky robot of ClearPath, or you can buy a Tata Safari. What will you choose? So, and obviously Tata Safari can take you far, and Husky can take you barely 10 kilometers, right? So that's the harsh truth, right? Making a robot takes a lot of money. Now we are looking for funds. We got accepted into one of the accelerators. I will make it a public announcement later. I can't make it right now. We got the news a couple of days back, so that's a good news for us. So they're ready to give us enough funds for us to buy a robotic arm and a robotic base, right? And let's see. I think 4 months down the line, you will see a demonstration video. 4 months down the line, you will see a demonstration video where a robot is going, picking up the things and dropping in some other container, right? So yeah, that's the news. You are the first set of people I'm telling you that we got money. So it's like latest. It's like probably last night, which we that we got the news. So yeah, but yes, I will make a public announcement, and then you will know more about it. How much we are getting funded, who is funding it. But right now we are getting money. Let me put it like this: we got an offer that somebody is ready to put money, and it is enough to buy a robotic arm and a robotic base.
That's amazing. I just have one last question. So you spoke about having confidence by starting a startup, right? So how do you think interns who are applying for companies to get internships and have the same amount of confidence within themselves? Because all of us are new. Most of us over here are yet to have an internship in the whole robotics field. So how do you tackle that?
Okay, just one thing I want to add in the previous question, the funding thing. One thing which you go for when you do not have money to even make a first prototype is accelerators. There are specific kind of institutions who fund you even when you are at an idea stage. So they just trust you, they just trust your credentials, and they give you money. The money is not huge. The money is not like $1 million. It's small. It's very expensive money, but they're ready to bet on you when you have nothing. So if you are doing a startup, especially a robotic startup, and you need money even to make the first prototype, go for accelerators. Google accelerators, you will get hundreds of them. Hacks is one of them. Exilor is one of them. And there are a bunch of others. Y Combinator is one of them. So there are a bunch of others. Now coming to your latest question, Meghna. You asked about the confidence. I want to get into more details of this question. So you are saying, is your question that how should people apply for or students apply for internships?
So basically, okay, fine, I'll just make it more clear. So the thing is, you spoke about having confidence, right? Like while starting a startup, you know that despite starting a startup, I know I can get a job in this place, and I know I can get a job in that place. So for an intern, like who is yet to experience the industry, how do you think they need to develop that confidence to apply for internships, even though there's a huge amount of rejections that keep coming their way?
Oh man, rejections are hard, right? So
Yeah.
That's my superpower, by the way. I get rejected a lot, and I still keep on going, right? And that's a superpower of most of the entrepreneurs. I was just talking to one of the companies, and they told me they got rejected by 100 VCs. VCs are the organization which fund you. There was another company, they said that they got rejected by 50 VCs. I'm like, how do you deal with these rejections, right? So the only mantra for it is, just keep your head down and keep working, like keep applying to all these internships. And one of the few things, so while emailing, I think Akash and Kaushik have shared very good method for emailing, right? But honestly, all these startups, I'm telling you, these startups are hungry for talent, right? Especially if you can work for them cheap, right? So, for example, my startup, right? In my startup, I do not get paid, and the people who are getting paid are not that they're not getting paid a lot. Right? So they're purely working for the idea of learning. Right? Interns are not getting paid at all. The 3 months intern, 2 months intern, no payment. Right? People who are working for 6 months, 10 months, they are getting paid, but they can easily get paid much, much more in the industry, like way more. Right? So these one thing I realized common thing between all of them. First is that they all coded RRT from scratch. They're really smart. They're really good into making. Second, everybody is interested in learning at this point of time, right? They all know that there's no point in earning at this point of time. Like what? We're right out of the college, you're 22 years old, right? Unless you have a loan on the top of your head, right? Most of them do not have loan, so they don't have to look for money. Right? They have to look for learning. And anyway, most of these people are going for masters after 1 year. So right now in August, so Divyanshu is going to UPenn, Ankur is going to Carnegie Mellon, Varshini and Ashwin are going to Georgia Tech, Hari is going to UCSD. So all these are going for masters, right? There's no point for them to earn for 1 year. Like kitna kama lenge? Like maximum 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, right? Or sorry, maximum 6 lakhs, right? That will not help them in masters. That will be their 1 month salary after they graduate from masters, right? So they're focusing more on the learning part. Everybody who's learning is focusing on the learning part, right? So when you mail these people, all the researchers, startups, right? So I mean, first of all, startups are very specific about the talent, about the skill set, right? So just getting selected by a startup to work, that's a big thing, because startups will not take any second grade or third grade talent, right? They're very specific about hey, they need really, really strong programmers. And the worst part is they want it for cheap. So they want really good people and they want it for cheap. So that's like weird thing about the startups. But the thing is, if you mail them, if you genuinely say that you want to learn, right, then there's a good chance, right? And obviously be specific about what you're mailing, right? Hey, you like this part, you have relevant experience. If you do not have relevant experience, you have on this project, you did previous third year, second year internship on this, give me a task, I will show you, I can do a lot, right? So just mail them, just put your head down, mail as many people as you can. Don't think twice about the rejections. If they reject you, ask them for the feedback. If they don't reply, keep bugging them, right? People like persistent people, right? Just tell one week they do not reply, mail them next week, make them next week, right? Mail them 3-4 times, right? After that, put them in the reject that they're not in the same reply. Because a lot of time it happens with me that I'm super busy, right? And there are people who mail to me. I mark their mail that this is an important mail. I need to get back to them. But things go bad. Right? People can get really, really busy. For professors, for postdoc fellow, PhDs do not even have a life. They spend 7 days a week in their lab. So don't even think about that. Right? Entrepreneurs, they are working. So I'm working. So I'm going to warehouse on Sunday, right? So this is my life, right? 7 days a week I work. So if I do not reply, or if an entrepreneur does not reply, just mail him again. Just ping him on LinkedIn, right? Ping him on email, ping him on LinkedIn, ping him 3-4 times. After that, he does not reply or she does not reply, then maybe they are not interested. But keep on mailing them, right? And people like this kind of dedication, persistence, right? And ask them, hey, why do you not want me? Right? And so, for example, one of the tests I give is code the RRT, right? I do not care how much time you took to code the RRT. I like the fact that you coded, you took the time, you took the time to learn RRT, right? So people like that kind of persistence, right? So just apply, don't give up, apply again and again, ask them what they need, and then be good at that skill. Right? And by the way, no startup has time to train you, right? So if you tell them that you do not know C++, but please, if you teach them, if entrepreneur teaches them, then they will learn. Nobody will come back to you. Right? Tell them that you do not know C++, but you will learn on the job. You will learn very fast. Right? People like so entrepreneurs like people with confidence that they can learn on themselves. They don't need to be guided at every point of time. They just need to be given job and they will finish the job, right? And people who are persistent, who do not give up. Right? People who do not have ego. Like usne reply nahi kiya, now I will not talk to him. That does not happen like that. Right? So just be persistent. And yeah, if you apply to me and I reject you, feel free to ask me for a feedback. Right? I will give you a feedback, and I will tell you why I rejected you. And yeah, so in the worst case, you can always, I can always give you a side project, right? And you can work on it, right? I can always mentor you. And if down the line you become really good in 1 month, you learn a lot in 1 month, or you show your dedication in a month, I will probably take you full time. I am always like open for good talent. But again, do not expect a lot of money from startups. Very few startups will be able to give you money. Because the thing about robotic startup is that majority of the money goes into the hardware. Right? 30 lakhs is going to my hardware. Right? So think about what I will be paying myself, right? And my team. So.
All right, Mr. Puru, that was an incredible session from your side. We've come to an end. If anybody of you have any more questions, you can always drop it on the Discord server. Mr. Puru is a part of the Discord server, and I've seen that he's very active in replying to all of our queries. Thank you so much for your contribution on that server as well.
One more tip, try to be as concise as possible. I can't read paragraphs, right? If you be like, if I need to know more about your question, I will ask another question, right? Just be concise. You want tips on SOP? Just say, do you have any good points about SOP? Right? If you want to know what good college you want to apply for, just that question is enough. I do not want to know the background story. If I need to know, I will ask you.
Great, yeah. Thank you so much, sir. That's incredible. This session was also extremely incredible, extremely informative. And we look forward to more sessions with you. And thank you so much for your time. I hope we didn't like stall you with a lot of questions, because we here at Alpha Robotics are trying to be very proactive from our side.